Well, yippee-ki-yay, motherfuckers!
Hello, listeners, and a Merry Christmas.
Christmas special!
You're like a walking sound effects machine over there, aren't you, Billy?
That's right, I'm basically a soundboard. That was either a machine gun or a helicopter, depending on how it sounds afterwards.
Throw in a Wilhelm scream and we're all set. Well, due to the season, we've decided to throw in an episode of a Christmas episode.
It is the season.
And we are tackling my favourite Christmas film ever, Die Hard.
Yes, and last week I mentioned that Casablanca is probably my third most shameful film secret. This is my second.
Okay.
Because I feel like, obviously Casablanca is a classic, but it is a bit old, so it's forgivable to have not seen it. This, for people my age, is kind of unforgivable.
I don't know how this happened.
Look, it just happened. And I don't know why, because I've seen everything, and it's not even like I was too young, like I remember seeing like Cliffhanger, but this for some reason just slipped. And
the granddaddy of them all. Like for me, Die Hard is the film that I measure all other action films against.
That's fair, because it did come out in 1988.
Directed by John McTiernan, who the year before had directed Predator, so he's on a pretty good run there.
Look,
I mean, that might actually be my two favourite action films ever, that he just went bang,
that's a
bang.
fair statement, yeah. Look, and people in this movie are young. Did you know that Bruce Willis had hair?
What?
Bruce Willis used to have hair.
Jesus.
I know. I legitimately, at several points in this movie, didn't recognise Bruce Willis. I get a few times I was like, what the fuck is why, who is this? Why are we watching this guy? Oh wait, that's John MacLaine. That happened at least twice to me.
God, that's awesome.
In this movie.
I tell you what, I watching it, so I watched it a week or two ago, because every Christmas, in December at some point, I will watch Die Hard. And for some reason, this time round, the year where it's set really hit home. Like, I recently watched the Netflix series Mindhunter, where one of the ways that they remind you of when this is set and that things are a bit different is that you see people smoking on planes. And right at the beginning of the film, MacLaine gets off the plane, he's at the terminal, and he's smoking inside the terminal. And you're like, oh, wow.
It's very 80s. In fact,
it's so 80s.
Were office parties in the 80s like this?
I bet they were.
Because our office parties aren't like this.
I bet they... You know, do lines of cocaine and bang in an office?
There's cocaine, there's boobs flying around. Like, my office parties aren't like this.
My understanding of the 80s is that that's very much how things went down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. One of the greatest generation.
There is some great 80s things in this film. Like, anytime a character needs to let you know that they're serious about something, God damn it! Yeah. I mean, how many times? That's not enough, God damn it!
Yeah. I was actually not so much surprised by the amount of expletives in this film, because, I was surprised by the amount of violence. And maybe that's because I haven't seen it, so I'm looking back, and maybe it used to be more common and now it's lessened. But quite a bit of violence in this film, which action movies generally aren't very gory. I
was going to say, you don't think about violence in action films.
Well, I mean, you do to a certain extent, but I mean, you think of bullets flying around, but you don't think of seeing these things very close up in action films quite often. I was surprised by the amount of violence in this movie.
You also have just an absolute A-grade 80s sleaze character in Ellis.
Oh that guy is a dick.
There's slime dripping off that guy.
He's the worst. He's probably just a typical 80s stockbroker.
So
he probably didn't know they were filming. He just wandered on the set.
He was just there. He was like, there's a Christmas party. He's actually like the guy from the Futurama episode.
He is.
The guy with bonitis.
I have bonitis.
So let's just, in case there's other Fruit Loops out there like you, Billy, that haven't seen Die Hard.
Yeah.
Die Hard is an action film where Bruce Willis's character, John MacLaine, is in an office building. There's a Christmas party going on of his wife's work.
Yes.
And some people come in who we think are terrorists and take over the office building.
Yeah.
And he, one man,
yes,
has to fight back.
He does.
And it's amazing.
Now, I mean, I have a couple of questions.
Yep.
My first question is, why the fuck is he at this office party? Can we just point out that it's his ex-wife? They're going through a
No,
separation.
not his ex-wife. They're separated. They're not divorced.
But why is he at this party?
Because it's Christmas. It's a Christmas movie, Billy.
Yeah, but why is he there?
Because he was coming from New York to LA for the holidays.
Yes, to visit his children.
Yeah, but
So why is he at her shitty office Christmas party?
because he was invited.
What? Who invited him?
And
Why?
keep in mind, her bosses are Japanese. And as part of this great stereotypical thing we have going on,
Yeah.
they probably didn't want to show any dishonor.
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. That was the one thing for me right from the start. I was like, wait, but what? Is he here just to be the one man? I mean, I know that he is because that's the movie, but, you know, I feel like they could have maybe made it a little bit more plausible than it
Well,
was.
Jesus. Go home then.
Look, I'm not here to shit all over Die Hard, all right? I'm here to have a discussion about a movie that is the second best Christmas action movie. Reindeer Games.
Oh, fuck. Don't believe you said the R
I
word.
swear that next Christmas I'm going to make you watch that. I mean,
I know it's going to happen.
That's not a fair, it's not a fair payback because obviously that movie is way better than this. But I'm going to make you watch that.
It's worth pointing out that there were people that had very real reservations about, and it sounds crazy now, but people at the studio had very real reservations about the casting of Bruce Willis as an action hero.
Right.
At the time,
I mean, what was he doing before
his
this?
biggest thing before it really was on TV, Moonlighting.
Moonlighting? So that
Yeah.
was already on at this time?
It was, yeah. So Moonlighting was on air, and that's kind of who people thought of. If you say Bruce Willis, they thought Moonlighting.
Right. Okay. I got to say...
Now it's crazy to think of Bruce Willis not being accepted as Bruce Willis.
I gotta say, you know the one thing I realised watching this movie? Bruce Willis used to be so much more likeable. Like, his on-screen presence, he was very likeable in this
MacLaine
film.
is so good.
But these days, he's a steaming turd. In everything he's in, you just hate him. Maybe that's just me. I don't know if that's a commonly held opinion. But he was so much more likeable back then.
It's true.
You know the other great thing about the casting? Did you know that Alan Rickman's in this movie?
What?
I had no idea. I mean, this is...
Hang on, did you actually not know?
I actually didn't know.
No
This is not
way!
bullshitting. That was a huge shock to me. Because here's the thing. Like, again, similar to Casablanca last week, I've never seen Die Hard, but I knew quite a lot about it. Everybody knows about Hans Gruber. I knew Hans Gruber. I didn't know.
You didn't know it was Alan
I
Rickman?
was shocked.
That's amazing!
Because, you know, when Alan Rickman came on screen, I was like, I thought the bad guy in this was Hans Gruber. What's Alan Rickman doing being a bad dude? Because Hans Gruber is foreign to me, and Alan Rickman talks like this.
No, he didn't.
Well, he certainly didn't in this film. It threw, but I was very happily
Hans
surprised.
Gruber, I subscribe to the school of thinking that Hans Gruber is in the pantheon of screen villains.
He's up there.
Love Hans Gruber.
I think I can only think of maybe one and a half better than him in action movies. John Lithgow in Cliffhanger.
Why are you embarrassing yourself like this?
John Lithgow in Cliffhanger is brilliant. And John Malkovich in Con Air is maybe... He's the half for me because he's maybe better than Alan Rickman.
I thought that he was the hero in Con Air.
John Malkovich?
Yeah.
Nah, he's the villain, mate.
Oh.
Well...
I just thought that anyone trying to kill Nick Cage in a film...
Why couldn't you just put the money back in
in
the
a
box?
Oh my god. So one of the things, like, Gruber is just great by himself.
Yeah.
One of the things that makes Gruber and this film so great is that going to another Bruce Willis film, in Unbreakable,
Which is a fantastic movie.
when Mr. Glass is talking about
The kids,
How
they
do
call me
you-
Mr. Glass.
that's the best part of the film.
I know I keep interrupting you, but please, go on.
The thing that makes in comic books,
Yeah.
the thing that informs you as to who the arch villain will be
It's the relationship.
is that he is the opposite of the hero. And here we have this slick, suit-wearing, efficient, because he's German, villain, up against,
very efficient.
this New York cop. He's either wearing a singlet or no shirt at all.
Yeah, look,
he doesn't even have shoes.
I have to question something about that singlet. Does he change singlets in the
No,
movie, or
it
is
just
it implied
gets-
that he's so dirty?
It just gets really dirty between, like,
because from one scene to the next, it changes from
it goes from white to brown.
And I was like,
Yeah.
hang on, wait.
The aging process on that wifey happened real quick.
It happens so, like, before there's really any major action, it's like brown, and not like patchy brown.
It's brown.
It's like a solid brown singlet. Yeah, but the relationship between those two characters, you're right, is brilliant. Because I love the fact that they're in communication throughout almost the entire film. It really does add something to this. It's not just kind of this unknown. Like, they're both very much aware of who the other person is, and it's kind of a real cat and
like
mouse.
they almost like each other.
Oh, they do. They do, because
There's one thing about Gruber is that you just love him.
Well,
Like, he's a dreadful human being.
he's charming,
but you
as
kind of
fuck, though.
love him.
He's charming as fuck. But not only that, he likes the thrill. The amount of times in this film that he says, like,
80s
that
style.
it doesn't matter. You know, like, people keep, his other henchmen keep coming up to him being like, oh shit, this happened, and Gruber's like, who gives a fuck?
And then one of the things that's so great about, like, it's got one of my favourite ever villains in Gruber. One of the things I think is so great about MacLaine as the hero is that he's not too awesome. Like, he's not
Like,
Jason.
he makes mistakes.
He's not Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
How often in an action film would it be a problem that there's glass on the floor?
You are right that things did affect him, which usually, these people are like, even, you know, like, I recently saw Atomic Blonde, which I absolutely loved. It's very stylistic, but one of the things is that Charlize Theron is being, like, thrown around by these massive, you know, German guys, and she's barely taking a bruise, you know, like, you know, whereas with this, he is actually affected by what's happening, which, that is nice to see.
And there's, like, he's even got this kind of, like, there's this fish out of water element going on as well with this, you know, guy from that works the streets of New York.
Yeah, like, he's a cop.
He's
but
now
he's
surrounded
not,
by,
like...
he's in a building where rich people work.
Yeah.
And which has been taken over by really excellent rich
Yeah.
thieves.
Yeah, so he's a fish out of water in both of those groups.
Yeah.
Which,
Yep.
And look, this film does have some of the best kind of action movie lines.
Oh,
It's right up there with Speed's, yeah, well, I'm taller. Like,
that's top of the heap.
that's
That's
right
the
up there.
best.
But there is some great stuff. Like, I promise I won't hurt you. Like that. But my absolute favourite is not even, like, said out loud in the way that's great. It's when the elevator doors open and there's that dead terrorist there, and he's gotten written on his sweater,
Now
I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
ho.
And that is just great.
And then, like, maybe my favourite catch cry in cinema history. In Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Yeah. Which, again, it's one of those things that even if you haven't seen this movie, you know that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you know the name John MacLaine. You know Hans Gruber, even if you've never seen this movie.
I'd had Hans Gruber's death spoiled before I saw this film because I saw Die Hard with a Vengeance first.
Right.
Because this film came out when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it was pretty hard for me to get away watching violent films at home anyway. So I first saw Die Hard with a Vengeance at a mate's house whose parents had hired it.
Yeah.
And so we watched the video there. And I love Die Hard with a Vengeance. Die Hard's my favourite, but I do love With a Vengeance. And
Do you love it with a vengeance?
One could say. And in that, there is a flashback to Hans Gruber being killed.
Oh, really?
So,
See, because I mean, maybe it's obvious in that I haven't seen any of the Die Hards. I haven't seen With a Vengeance. I haven't seen Die Harder. I haven't seen Live Free or Die Hard.
Don't.
I haven't seen any of them.
Now, we're doing this as a Christmas episode. There might be people out there who are taking exception that using Die Hard as a Christmas film. You've watched it now.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a Christmas film?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a Christmas film. It's
good because it is.
Like, I mean, it is. It's definitely a Christmas film.
There's carols in there. Actually, one of the great needle drops in this film is when they crack the vault and Hymn of Joy plays. So good. But also, like, you know, it is about a family getting back together.
Oh, that's true. It's a family reunion film.
It's a family film.
Yeah, it's basically Look Who's Talking.
Jesus. Now, while there is a hero who you feel very much could be killed by just a bullet, as humans can be killed by, the film does have an unkillable henchman in Carl, who, like, how is he not dead?
Well,
are you kidding me?
This is, in a lot of ways, he seems like the big bad. When he first came out, as I said, because I was surprised to see Alan Rickman, and in my head, I couldn't reconcile Alan Rickman with Hans Gruber. I was like, oh, okay, so he's Hans Gruber. Because it took a while before they said their names. So I was like, all right, this guy's Hans Gruber.
Yeah.
And then I was shocked to find out, no, it's Alan Rickman as
And then-
Hans Gruber.
Was that Kermit the Frog? Was,
Hi-ho! Hans Gruber here.
that could be a thing.
Yeah.
But the unkillable henchman Carl,
Yeah.
like when he gets essentially hung by MacLaine, and he's up there for... I mean, they've got time to get people up
But
to the
that's
roof
okay,
and come back down, and he's still hanging there.
But
He's dead,
yeah.
but then he's not.
But,
and the thing is,
you forgive that.
Carl's a good henchman.
Yeah.
He's a good henchman. He's a big...
He does his job.
He's a big, scary dude, but then he does lose credit at one point. When they're having their big fight, he comes at MacLaine with this freaking karate chop, which he telegraphs it from last week. He runs at him like Austin Powers.
Like he's going to bitch slap him.
It's like, ooh, no. I'm like, oh, Carl, come on, man. Thankfully, we've kind of moved past the karate chop. That's what I mean. 80s action films tend to be the best, but I'm happy to leave the karate chop back there.
Can we talk about some of the other characters in this film?
Yes.
Particularly the cops outside.
Oh, yep.
Because you gotta love Pal. Like Pal, and at the end of the movie, John MacLaine...
Officer exposition.
John MacLaine meeting Pal is a more romantic moment than him reuniting with his wife. When they meet and they have that long glance and, they slowly walk over to each other and, it was a pretty great moment. And the other huge moment for me is about halfway through and I'm like, holy shit, that's the principal from The Breakfast Club being just as much as a dick as he was in The Breakfast Club. Pal's boss.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep, and he was basically the same guy.
He is the same character.
I wonder if that's him.
He's probably got a twin brother. One's a principal and one's a police captain. That's another great 80s...
That'd be such a good sitcom.
Oh my god! That's copyrighted.
Yeah.
Everyone, see with the circle around it. 2017. That's The Bears. Coming to you on Netflix in 2018. But it's another great 80s trope as well. The douchebag police captain.
I mean, the only thing we're missing is Pal being one day from retirement. That would have really made this for me if he was like, I'm too old for this, man. Like, I'm one day from retirement.
Yeah.
That would have done it for me.
Yeah, it's a good call.
Yeah. The only other thing for me, there were kind of the two things. Firstly, I'm like, why is he at this party? The only other time I questioned, did he mean for that explosion to be that big?
I don't believe
because his wife is in this building. Yeah. Does he is he in that much of a rush to get out of this building and see Pal that he doesn't care?
His new love?
Because that was a big explosion.
Did
he mean for that?
I don't think he did. And that's why, when the fire rushes up at him and he's like, oh shit. It's like, oh snap. I didn't think that was coming at me.
Okay, so how old were you when you first saw this film?
I was trying to think about that when I was watching it. I was wondering how old I was, and I suspect I was 14.
So you were young. You were at about the time that most children are allowed to start watching these kind of films. And so has this always been your favourite action movie since that point?
Actually, I mean, I always loved it. But I actually grew up liking Die Hard with a Vengeance more. And there were other action films as well.
Because you'd seen it first, or...
Yeah, it probably did have something to do with it.
Yeah.
But then as the years went by and I revisited it and watched it again and again and again, it kept making its way up the ladder for me. There were just more things about it. I'm just like, this is the Bible for action films for me.
Yeah.
And this is the one that I measure all others against.
And I absolutely agree with you there. The problem for me is that, similar to you liking Die Hard with a Vengeance more because you'd seen it first, this is now a 30-year-old film that I'm seeing 30 years too late. And I really, really appreciate it.
What have you got against shoulder pads?
I really, really appreciate it because I understand that, this is where all those action movie tropes I've been loving really came from. But I've already been loving those tropes and seeing them for 30 years. So I'm now seeing this through the lens of 30 years of other movies, some of which might be technically better. So for me, my expectations were so high because everyone is like, this is the movie, you got to watch this. And I finally watched it and I really feel like I've been done a disservice, mainly by you, for not forcing me to watch it.
I'm not a good friend.
Like Clockwork Orange style, just making me, because I feel...
Have you seen Clockwork Orange?
Okay, good. I've seen that.
Okay, we don't need to do that.
Because I feel like I'm too late, I enjoyed this movie, but I didn't enjoy it as much as a lot of other action movies that I've seen. Because, see, like, for me, like, Cliffhanger is my Die Hard. You know, I saw Cliffhanger when I was, like, 11. You know, movies like Executive Decision, Con Air, The Rock, you know, these are the kind of movies that I was watching from the age that you first saw Die Hard. So I'm now looking back at this, and it's a good movie, and I really appreciate that it birthed all of those other movies. But if you haven't seen it, you might be too late.
I'm gonna ask you for a rating out of 10.
Yeah, look, I struggled with this. I really did. Because like I said, I liked this movie. I really liked it, and I had a fun time watching it. But when it finished, my first thought was a 6.
Oh my god.
But it's gone up since then. I feel like this is at least a solid 7, if not an 8 movie. And like I said, I feel like if I had seen this 20 years ago, and I had the love for it that you do, I'd give it a lot higher score, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. But looking back on it, and because I feel like I'm way too late to the party, I think the most I can give it is, you know, maybe like a 7, 7.5. For you?
You know, I actually really struggled with it as well, because it's the first time I'd watched it since I started essentially checking in films on the IMDb app. So I actually had to give it a rating for the first time. And it was really hard for me to pick between a 9 and a 10.
Right.
Because I don't like dishing out 10s.
Yes.
Unless it's pretty
well
special.
And truly worthy.
So does this film have enough going for it that it measures up against other 10s? Well, in a lot of ways, no. But then again, if I think it's the best example of a genre that I really enjoy, surely that makes it a 10, doesn't it?
So what did you end up going with? Or have you still not decided?
I'm still on... I think I'm going to go 9.
Right.
Just because do I think Die Hard... Am I really comfortable with putting Die Hard next to Casablanca? And I very nearly am. Yeah. And I have no beef with someone who does want to do that. I'm not going to argue it. And I'm teetering, but I just can't quite.
Right. That's cool. This is the first time we've done one of these look-backs episode where the person who instigated the watching of it hasn't given it a 10.
Yeah, true.
And I'm glad for that. I think, honestly, we've had a really good streak these last couple of weeks, man. We need to go see something shit.
Oh, we need a dud.
Because we haven't...
Or at least something that one of us thinks is a dud.
Yeah.
We need some slagging. The internet doesn't like positivity.
No.
If I've learned one thing in my time of the internet, and I have just cracked email... People don't want to say nice things.
No, they need us slagging each other off.
Yeah.
All right, so...
If you do want to say nice things...
If you do want to say nice things to us, then you can definitely do it on iTunes or on Stitcher, wherever you can rate podcasts. You can email us at bearsonfilm@gmail.com, or you can join us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and have a party with us. That'd be great.
I hope Christmas has been great for all of you that celebrate
a wonderful Christmas
that day.
And I truly do.
I hope you watched Die Hard.
I truly do hope that you watch Die Hard for Christmas. You know, it is a great Christmas Eve movie. Like I can't think of anything else I'd want to watch on Christmas except for maybe Muppet Christmas Carol, and if you really push me, Love Actually. So go watch Die Hard. Just do it.
It's the right thing to do, people. See you, Billy.
Catch ya.